enough. Enough. Enough already. This morning, in the Eastern District of Arkansas Federal District Court, we filed a 5-count complaint. When I say we, I mean that I filed this complaint on behalf of the gentleman sitting here to my right, Keith Humphrey, who, along with being a wonderful guy and a private citizen, happens to be the chief of police of the Little Rock Police Department. The lawsuit that we filed today names upwards of 24, I believe, defendants. All of the police officer defendants are named in their individual capacity. Very important to stress that. Not in their official capacity, but in their individual capacity, as private citizens. The 5 counts of the complaint are First Amendment retaliation, count 1. Count 2 is alleges a violation of the equal protection aspects of the Constitution, the 5th and 14th Amendment, 14th making it applicable to the states. The 3rd count of the complaint sounds in a state law claim, which is abusive process. That means to abuse the courts, or to use the legal system in a way that it was not designed, to use it as a weapon, to use it for an unseemly means and goal. The 4th count is a defamation, libel count against some of the defendants, and I'll get into the defendants shortly. And the 5th count, which relates to all of the defendants, is a civil conspiracy count. So what is this lawsuit? This lawsuit is about a private citizen, about a man who's seeking redress for what can only be called conspiratorial assault on his personal and his professional lives. The fact that Mr. Humphrey here, to my right, the fact that he's the chief of police is really incidental to the major aspects of this complaint. Indeed, this could be a case where all of these events happen at a Dunkin' Donuts, or at a construction site, or at an accounting firm. The fact that police officers are involved in this particular case, while important, and while it sets the condition precedent for the things that happen, it's really incidental. So that's what this case is. What is this case not? This is not a case against the city of Little Rock. This is not a case against the mayor of Little Rock or the city manager of Little Rock. This is not a case against the Little Rock Police Department. This is not a police misconduct case. Now, I've been practicing law for almost 20 years. I've been practicing law in Arkansas, where I'm admitted into the federal district court for nearly 10 years. It has been quite an education, and I've developed a true affinity for this state and this city. And it truly pains me when I see things that are disrupting the otherwise pleasant and progressive track I think this city is on. When I was approached about this case, I didn't know Keith very well. I knew him from afar. I've never named him in a complaint. I've never deposed him. There have been no police-involved shootings on this man's watch, which I think is commendable and impressive. And I think it speaks to the power of his leadership, to the poise and intelligence of his leadership, to the calm, even hand that he administers over the city, as evidenced in some of the Bradley Blackshear protests that were going on just 2 days after you began. Hopefully you had a chance to read this very lengthy addendum that I very lovingly and diligently crafted, because it speaks volumes about what this man and what his lovely wife and what some of his children have encountered and had to deal with, lo these last few months, even a year and a half or so. It really kind of happened when I showed you. So never in my career have I seen this. I've never seen what could be described as just kind of rank insubordination on a chief, on any executive, any boss, anyone. And the notion of piling on, I think you're seeing here. So this is going to be a press conference like you haven't seen before, and you're going to enjoy it because A, I'm not going to be talking much longer. But B, you're going to be able to hear straight from Keith what's going on here. What's with the lawsuits? He doesn't seem like a guy who'd be sexually harassing his subordinate female officers. I hope I'm not overstating it when I say that I feel like we are at a reckoning as a society. I feel like there is a rather entrenched group in many different facets of our lives that have had a stronghold on power for generations. And as they see that demographic creeping up to 51%. I think, in my humble opinion, what you're seeing is an effort to blunt that progress, an effort to hoard resources, to grab money, to grab power, to solidify power. And my friends, I think that is what we're witnessing here. What we have is a rogue group led by the Little Rock Fraternal Order of Police, Lodge 17. That group, that state group, and I call them a state group because they enjoy exclusive bargaining power with the city. In the case law in the 8th Circuit and in the United States Supreme Court, gives you a couple different ways to make private actors governmental actors. And one of them is the delegation of state authority. When a private group has an exclusive bargaining right with the city, it is tantamount to the city. So for many years, the FOP has wielded vastly oversized power. This is more than a mere advocacy group. This isn't about fighting for wages anymore. This isn't about vacation time anymore. This group has morphed into a colossal political force. One that is hell-bent on realizing its agenda, continuing its stranglehold on fair processes within their police department and, frankly, other city vestiges. So, I think it's fair to say that we're looking at something of a reckoning here in our society. And I don't think that has to be construed violently at all. But we have to reckon with some truths that we haven't been able to reckon with And we need to have discussions that we haven't had the opportunity or the courage to have. So, though this seems like a time of strife and conflict, I dare say that out of that strife and conflict, real change is at hand and real change is possible. And that's one of the reasons why we're here today. The beating that this man has been taking for several weeks now, distortions, lies, fabrications, harassing phone calls to his wife at work, profane emails, threatening emails, demeaning emails, and he's done it with grace and aplomb and with a smile on his face, because that's the kind of guy he is, I've come to learn. But enough is enough, and it is time to set the record straight. I'm going to give you a very brief background. Over the past 20 years, like Michael Scott, I'll be your guest for the next 45 minutes. Guys, got a dark nothing shirt over here, so. I'm going to take you very briefly through the addendum, and then I'm truly just going to let Keith say a few words and then open it up and let you guys just ask whatever questions you have on your mind. You deserve to have them answered, and Keith is very willing to answer them. So, just very briefly, the defendants in this case are the Fraternal Order of Police, 2 assistant chiefs, the executive board of the Fraternal Order of Police, 2 individual officers, Kevin Sexton and Charles Starks, a gentleman by the name of Matt Mirsky, who's a former officer with the LRPD who now works for WatchGuard, and who is the kind of liaison between the department and the provider of the body cams, WatchGuard. The head of the HR department, Shella Atlas Evans, sued individually. And finally, the ubiquitous gadfly, Russ Raycon. I was very reluctant to name him in this complaint, primarily because I think he likes the attention. But he is indeed an integral facet of this complaint, because quite simply, he's the hatchet man. He's the person that allows a lot of these individuals here who happen to be police officers, he's the person that allows them to keep their hands clean. But not anymore. So about 20 years ago, there was an African-American, reform-minded chief of police here by the name of Lawrence Johnson, coincidentally also from the state of Oklahoma. He was reform-minded, he got to work. He changed things about the internal affairs investigations. He made it easier to file, and less intimidating to file citizen complaints. Johnny Gilbert, how about that? Johnny Gilbert, you just want to know, it was literally coincidence. Johnny Gilbert is an officer who benefited from the reforms and from the fairness that Chief Johnson brought to the LRPD. However, that golden era of reform was quite short-lived, because before long the FOP mobilized. Again, when they felt like their pipeline to promotions, their exclusive right, de facto right to perks and promotions was being threatened, they stepped in. Everybody knows that the FOP is a white male-dominated organization. They've never had any type of minority or female president of that organization. And I'm not here to vilify white men, but what I will say is that when you do not diversify in terms of your leadership, in terms of your membership, inevitably your organization is going to go a certain way, whether you intend for it to do that or not. I'm not here to call anybody evil. We are all creatures of comfort and creatures of repetition, and so this isn't about name calling. This is about problem solving. But 20 years ago, 15 years ago, they were able to run Chief Johnson out of town. And how did they do it? By mounting a media campaign, by erecting billboards, by using words like toxic environment, by using phrases that are seemingly innocuous, but everyone knows what they mean. We're in dire need of leadership. Sound familiar? I spoke with Lawrence Johnson a few weeks ago at length about his tenure here. It's the first time I ever had a chance to speak with the man directly. He's a wise guy. I mean, he's a wise man, I should say. He's an enlightened man. He's a really enlightened, well-rounded, smart guy. And it's a shame that he was run out of this town because he could have done wonders for it. So for the next, so many years, we had two FOP-endorsed chiefs, Stuart Thomas and Kevin Buckner. Let's all remember here, the mere fact of a chief being African-American does not mean that the policies that he or she promulgates are helpful and not harmful to African-Americans. It's a big myth. Under Stuart Thomas, police involved shootings skyrocketed. Police misconduct was a joke. Under Kevin Buckner, a little better, still not ideal, still too much shooting, and too many passes, and too many perks for those in powerful position. Now, in late 2018, Little Rock citizens had a choice on who was going to lead their city. By the time of the runoff election, there was a real big choice you had, You got Frank Scott on this side saying, vote for me, and I'll reform the police department. I will bring in independent checks and balances. I will end this nepotism. We'll get rid of that no-knock policy. It's dangerous. That's what Frank said. Baker Currison said, things seem okay with me. We've already got a plan for that. The choice was there. These weren't similar candidates. Night and day, up and down. Your choice, Little Rock. Little Rock chose the reformer. Little Rock chose reform. It's a bit trite, but elections have consequences. So, for the FOP to come out against Frank and to try to stymie Frank Scott, for them to try to befuddle and undermine the similarly reform-minded chief of police that Frank Scott appointed, is tantamount to undermining the democratic small d decision made by Little Rock citizens. And I think it's even more insulting when you consider that none of the real power players in the FOP even live in Little Rock. So, Frank Scott appoints this man who came with a history of reform. The things that he did in Norman are fantastic. There's a reporter who was looking at this story, was trying to find people in Norman. They couldn't find anyone to say anything bad about the guy. No one could. Investigative journalists couldn't find someone to say anything bad about Keith Humphrey. And that's my experience too. So, again, why are we here? Well, we're here because, like Chief Johnson before him, Chief Humphrey threatens to derail the gravy train. He threatens to derail the gravy train by making it fair for everybody. We're not talking about freebies. We're just talking about an even playing field. So, what you see here is the mounting of a ferocious campaign You've got two chiefs of police, one who just departed yesterday, I learned. But you've got two chiefs of police, both of whom wanted this position, neither of whom have been particularly excited about fulfilling their duties as assistant chiefs. Elections have consequences. Appointments that come from elections have consequences. So, this is madness. This is madness, what's going on here. And what this lawsuit seeks to do is to, A, give some clarity to the facts here. He's going to be able to talk now. He's going to be able to tell you what you need to know, and it all makes sense. So, we're here to clear the air. We're here to set the record straight. And, let the chips fall where they may. I'm very confident in the integrity of this man. I'm very confident in the facts that we have amassed heretofore, many of which are in the complaint, several of which are not. But, we're here to set the record straight and the police department is a paramilitary organization. There's one person at the top, and that person has the discretion and the authority to implement his or her vision as he or she sees fit. Nothing more, nothing less. He fired Charles Starks when Charles Starks killed Bradley Blackshear. I've got news for Charles Starks. It was already the law long before the Bobby Moore trial, but at the very least, all Little Rock officers know or should know, as of April of 2017, the day the jury delivered that unanimous verdict, that all-white, very, very conscientious jury. Not only is it a violation of policy to put yourself in front of a moving vehicle and then later claim that being in front of that moving vehicle justified deadly force, not only is that a violation of policy, but that is potentially a criminal act. And that is certainly potentially grounds for a civil lawsuit. So, I don't know what Charles Starks thinks he's doing, and I don't understand how anyone can look at that video and not see what's clearly there. But he fired him for that. That's his right to do. That's his discretion to do it. And when Stuart Thomas fired Josh Hastings for the same thing, I don't recall the pitchforks and the torches coming out at that time. So, we've got a little discrepancy here. So, I will get off my soapbox. I wanted to say this. If you look at this man's background, and you look at the caliber of the person that he is, the things that he's done, the people that he's affected, I want to start calling him the Bill Walsh of police chiefs, because he's got a tree of police chiefs behind him. Where he goes, he inspires, he inculcates with leadership skills, and then he lets you go. That's the way it should be. So, I take particular offense at the onslaught this man has faced. So, I'm just going to give the mic to Keith Humphrey. Let him speak from the heart a bit about what these past few months have been like for him and his family. And he always says to me, it's a privilege to be here in the state capital city. And it is. He earned it. Got to give the man a chance. So, Keith and Lacey.
Thank you, Mike. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm a very, very emotional person. I'm going to try to stay, not show that as much, because if you all remember, when I accepted this job in March, I cried like a baby. I stood there and accepted this job, and I basically said that this was one of the jobs that I had prayed about, and that I felt I needed to be here, and that God had led me here. I even came here a week earlier. I left my family behind, and it's really, I don't talk about my family. I think that's one of the problems that people have, is that I'm very private when it comes to my family. I'm very protective of my family. I think that's why that's why a lot of this stuff hurts. And I just want to kind of tell you a little bit. I'm married to Pamela Humphrey, who we've been married for 33 years. And I took a vow to protect this woman with my life. We have three daughters and a grandson. I took a vow to protect each and every one of those girls and my grandson and protect them. Do you know what it feels like when, as a man, let's put the chief's point to the side. Do you know what it feels like as a man to have your name, thrown across the newspaper and on the local news, in the national magazines, that you are unfaithful, that you're a retaliator, that you're incompetent, that you're mean, that you're an intimidator, that you're a sexual harasser? Just one of those in itself could be catastrophic to someone's career. I've been married to this woman for 33 years. It's never been perfect, but she knows I got her and she's got me. She's been with me from the time I said I wanted to be a police chief, to every badge pinning, to every promotion. She has sacrificed her career for mine. And when this job came open to give me an opportunity to get my wife closer to her ailing mother who lives in Memphis, I did that. That wasn't the only reason. It was because I wanted to be here. I earned the right to be here. 50 plus people put in for this job, and I was selected. Nobody gave me anything. You look at my career, I've worked my way. A lot of people don't know this, but when I left the city of Arlington, Texas, I left the city of Arlington, Texas as a lieutenant, a middle manager, to become the chief of the city of Lancaster, Texas. Over 70 people from throughout the nation put in for that job. I was the lowest ranking person to put in for that job, and I got that job. And I stayed there, and I made sure when I left there that they wouldn't have to go outside and find a chief. As a matter of fact, 3 people from that department have become chiefs. They had no desire to become chiefs. As a matter of fact, a couple of those guys didn't like me when I got here, because they couldn't figure how a lieutenant from Arlington could be the chief of a department. Because it's here, and it's here, and it's here. That's why. I'm a student of the profession. Everything I have, I'm humble, I'm faithful, and I'm confident. I'm not arrogant, I'm confident. But then to go to Norman, which was a sundown town, and be the first outside chief and the first African American chief, you would probably expect to get some of that treatment there. But I was treated with respect. And from that department, I've had 4 individuals go to become chiefs. I've mentored about 14 people, and 3 of those females have become chiefs. Out of a narcotics unit where you have officers that have been there 25 and 25 plus years, the same officers in narcotics. And you say that's not right, because you have other people that want that opportunity to work. We have people in our department that can't get opportunities because other people have those entitlements. You don't hear about that in the media. But when you stand up and say enough's enough, you get hit in the face. You can get hit in the face because you won't meet with the FOP in New Orleans to have a beer, which I don't drink with my supporters, to sit down and talk about a transfer policy that's going to affect certain members of the FOP. And when you don't do that, you're stampeded on in a meeting. When you think that you're going to talk to one or two people, you walk into a meeting and there's 10 people from the FOP, and all they want to care about is the fact they don't want their people moved out of narcotics. Why do people come to me? Why do officers come to me regarding serious issues regarding discrimination or regarding unfair treatment instead of going to certain members of their chain of command? Because they trust me. I have integrity. Let's talk about the things that many of you all reported on that I wasn't given a chance to answer the question and that I feel was so unfair to my wife. I don't think people understand what it means when someone accuses you of your credibility, that you're sleeping with someone and you're having an affair with someone, and nobody cares that you're saying that's not true. Based on the fact that I met someone professionally, it's like I've done other times, I have passed on jobs to others. And a person applies for a job that happens to be in the police department that falls directly under an assistant chief who has been very supportive of me. And they go through the process like they're supposed to, and I'm not even involved in the process, but they're being told that I was. And this person's car was stolen. Stolen. And she called me and asked me, how do I make a police report? I told them how to make a police report. The officer took the report. She told me that she had made a report. Could I come give her a ride home? Absolutely. That's what professional friends do. And I gave this person a ride home. That's it. 3 hours later, she calls me and she says, I left the paper with the report numbers, not the report, because it was reported that she told people she left the report. There's no way she could have left the report because the report wasn't signed off until the next morning. So I just want to clarify that. And I said, well, I won't bring it back today. I'll just bring it in the morning because I don't want anybody to think anything crazy. And we laughed. So the next morning I get up and I have a right to work out, walk, whatever, and I said, I'll bring it over in the morning. But what people don't know is that there was a police car parked next door to her house on a death investigation. I drove by that car. I backed into the driveway because the street is about as narrow as this podium with ditches on the side. 95% of police officers back their cars in, whether it's at residence or whether it's at home. I didn't do anything wrong for that. I didn't do anything wrong. I took this person, the report number and the paper that she left, and I left. And I stopped and told the officer, hey, how's everything going? This officer said, oh, your neighbor died. I said, that's not my neighbor. I said, I don't live here. I was just dropping something off to a friend, and I left. But the video that the local media showed doesn't show the full story. Because if that video was completed, it showed my car driving up, backing in, going in, coming out. The only thing that was shown is the video of my car. I could have easily lied and said it wasn't me. But I didn't. But what the citizens don't know is that same video was used. Basically, I was told, in so many words, if I don't get out of town, that video is going to be made public. Show the video. I never had a decision in that process. Me and this young lady why would this young lady tell me anything about her background? ask anybody I meet, what's your background? Do you have a warrant? I definitely don't check people's histories, driver's license. But I can tell you what, some of the people named in this did that. That's criminal. That's criminal. But the union doesn't talk about them. I think y'all are going to be really interested when you read this and talking about the conspiracy part of how people met up and cut video and things like that and destroy video. And things were done in the chief's office. Nobody says anything about that. Nobody. And so I guess my thing is, when you talk about retaliation, how is it retaliation when you never discuss the case with anyone in the chain of command? The 13 years I've been a police chief, when discipline comes through, I never discuss that with any of my subordinates because that's their decision. I never want to be put in a position where they can say the chief was wanting me to go this way. How is it retaliation when you don't want somebody walking through your office while you're on the phone or you have someone in your office and you tell them you can't cut through my office? My office, where I sit and I make decisions. You want to walk through my office to take a shortcut to the parking lot. How's that retaliation when I ask somebody not to walk through my office? How are we getting so many programs together in this department if it's dysfunctional? Let me clarify this. I would be remiss. I have 740 employees. The majority of those employees are white. They're amazing employees. This is not about race. This is not about any of those officers, their race, religion, or anything. This is about being fair. So I want to make it very clear that this is not about the 600 or 500 members of the Little Rock Fraternal Order of Police. Because the majority of those individuals are there for the protection, for the legal protection and for the bargaining. I can assure you that there are many officers that are part of the FOP who do not agree with their actions and their tactics. I promise you that. I want to share that with you. I can share that with you. I can share with you that the BPOA has been very open-minded. There are many members of the FOP. The body has been very supportive. Afraid. They fear retaliation. Just recently, had a young officer that didn't step forward and did the right thing, and the state director of the FOP called him a snitch. Guys, this is about the right thing here. I'm the chief of Little Rock, but I'm a man. And I'm gonna do what's right, no matter what. This is about the right thing. This is about the young officers who are looking to move and grow, and the young officers who feel intimidated because they can't stand up for themselves, and if they do, they'll never get a chance to work somewhere else, and they'll get a file put on them. That's what this is for. This is for the men and women of this city that believe in me and that believe in this city and that want to hold police officers accountable. That is what this is about. It's not about Keith Hunter. You don't treat people this way. Now, one of the things I want to say before the questions, if you treat me this way, the police chief, a fellow law enforcement officer, the chief of police, how are you treating other officers? How are you treating citizens? If you will lie on me, and I think the saddest thing about it, one of these guys was born and raised here. Talk about going to Central High. and basically said, I said what I needed to do to try to get the job. I have no integrity, right? So I just want to put that out there, and I'll answer any questions that you all have. But I hope this is shared with the same tenacity that was utilized several months ago to embarrass me and my family. I hope you use the same tenacity to put this out there. Because if you're not, you're just as complicit as the FOP.
Well put. So, let's just open it up. Andrew.
Chief, I have a question.
Yep. I'm just going to stick over here.
First of all, did you talk with the mayor at all before allowing this to?
No. The city's not involved in it. I didn't talk to the mayor. No parts of the city was involved in this or in this discussion. This was a decision that I made. Who I talked to was God and my family. And so,
And a follow-up question on what ultimately is the end goal with this? Do you want to see a culture change in the department? Do you want to see a change in the way the FOP operates? What exactly are you doing?
So, this is an absolutely good faith piece of litigation that we bring this morning. Solidly, squarely on all fours. But, you know, this guy here is not a vindictive man. He is, I'm calling him the healing chief. Right is right. He needs to get his foothold back where it was, where it needs to be. And there's not a vindictive bone in this man's body. We're prepared to go through this case, take depositions, do the trial if we have to do it. But, you know, I like to think that this is about something a little bit bigger. And I do think that this lawsuit, I almost feel like this lawsuit might be the equivalent of smelling salts for some of these folks. You know, we can play hardball, trust me. Trust me. But, you know, no one has to play hardball, right? So, procedurally, we're going to go through whatever case management, case scheduling order is entered. But, you know, he's trying to bring this place together. He's married to this lawsuit in principle. I'm not sure he's married to this lawsuit in procedure. Let's just put it that way.
and I'd like to say also, that, you know, one of the other things that was very concerning to me is that a report was provided to the media back in May related to an investigation that clearly showed that 2 assistant chiefs and a lieutenant were involved in the manipulation of video. And that was never reported by the media.
Was that known? That might not have been known.
It was known. It was made public. And so, very clear. I think that that should have had some attention, should have gotten some attention. But you know, it is what it is, and you know, and I'm gonna always go high. Why did you stay quiet so long? Because God told me it wasn't time. Let me just say this. Others play checkers. Smart people play chess. Some do algebra. I do calculus.
Sometimes the game board is important. In this case, for somebody outside the city, it sounds a lot like a labor dispute between management and rank and file. And so what's different in this case from something that would go before the labor?
I believe the humiliation and the conspiracy, that if you have a labor issue, you sit down and you work it out. When you have an open door and you sit down with the FOP and you've talked, and you have the president of the FOP that would call you 2 or 3 times a day at times over the small things. And they had opportunity, if there was some issues that were concerning to him by some of his members, we've had meetings. You go back and check my calendar, we've had meetings with the FOP. There are emails scheduling meetings with the FOP. So there have been some concerns regarding, and the thing that I want to point out here is I hope you all understand that the FOP does not represent, does not bargain for lieutenants and above. They bargain from sergeants and below. So you should find it interesting that all of a sudden the FOP is representing assistant chiefs with the funds of officers. And so I think that that's, you know, a question that should be, but it is a labor deal, but it's going beyond a labor deal when it starts becoming conspiring to humiliate, to provide false information. That's when it becomes beyond that.
I just want to, if I can say very briefly to that, you know, I've never seen a conspiracy claim like, conspiracy facts like this in my life. You know, normally when you allege a conspiracy, you necessarily don't know everything. You have to make some leaps, some educated leaps, something, you know, an inference or two. And then you hope that through discovery you can fill in some of those dots. One of the reasons why I did the addendum in the way that I did it chronologically was because when you put all of these events in order and then you take a step back and you look at it as a tapestry, you see patterns emerge. You see certain buzzwords that are used that would seem to be very, very unusual and very coincidental otherwise. You see timing issues. You see motions being filed on the same day as reports being made. You see cyclical type of information where they create false stories, peddle it to the media, and I love the media. Peddle it to the media, and then they use the media story as an exhibit in their motion, which then becomes another story, and it just goes like that. And so in this, if you just look through the addendum, the conspiracy is really quite remarkable. You've got a lot of different moving parts, a lot of different people doing different things, but all geared toward the same goal, which is running him out of town to preserve the gravy train, in short.
If we're going to be calling the media, I'd like to clarify that video of the alleged affair that you have, who played this and so on, so we don't know us all over because they don't understand.
Well, right, I'm not going to call out the station. I think everybody knows who it is, and it continued to play over and over again. That was disheartening. Let me, and I think what I want everybody to come out of this is that immediately when that happened and we wanted to open an investigation into that, one of the assistant chiefs went to court to file an injunction prohibiting me from doing any type of internal investigation against me.
And do you mind clarifying also about the splice video where the people who were, allegedly splicing the video and sending it, because I can't speak for everyone, I think it was better but not my message.
Yeah, that's the video that was made public. That video was altered. And so I think when you look at that, when you try to get to the bottom, it seems like every time I try to make this department better, I mean, how do you, as a police chief, how do you go and file an injunction to keep a police chief from doing internal investigation? I mean, how do you do that? I'm making this up. This is in documents that someone filed a injunction to prevent me from doing an internal investigation based on violations of policy, which could even also be some possible criminal acts. But an investigation can't be conducted, and nobody seems to have a problem with that. That's an integrity issue in itself.
One thing I find kind of interesting is, I've been wrangling with the city for, years now. And when I want a video that I'm entitled to, even after filing a federal lawsuit, man, I still am jumping through hoops. I'm drafting protective orders, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. This thing just miraculously pops out. It's just out there. It's just out there the day of, the next day. It's bizarre. This shouldn't happen. That's not right. Now, to Ms. Rose, to your statement, I cannot vouch for me personally, the knowledge that the video got out in the public because of some activities in one of the assistant chief's office. I know that. I don't know that the media knew that. Now, I'm not going to, I'll defer to Keith on this one. But in your defense, it's possible that knowledge wasn't known. But again, I defer.
Chief,
Yeah.
I have a question, Chief.
Yeah.
Do you think that some of the allegations towards you came about after you fired a white police officer for shooting and murdering Bradley, a black man?
I think that my actions of firing the officer when I got here, I think that as a matter of fact, I know that there was a plan on a vote of no confidence immediately after I terminated the officer. Apparently that was, they were told to stop, and we'll hold that for another time. I know that, I do know that the FOP was very upset with me regarding that and told me. And, I've been accused of following other people's leads when it comes to that, and which is totally false. And so, yes, I believe that that's just one of the components to the problems that I've inherited, yes.
And do you think that the recent allegation against you is due to an ongoing investigation of you putting 2 police officers on leave due to a arrest of a Hispanic man? Can you share some light on that, please?
I can't go into any specific details, but I do know that there have been some criticism of my placing 2 supervisors on administrative leave recently. And so that's all I can say about that, because there is an open investigation. But there was some people that didn't like that and made it very clear.
Chief, I want to follow up one more thing on the video of you in the driveway. You said you were told that that video was going to be made public if you didn't get out of town.
Pretty much.
Who told you that, and when did that happen?
I can't state that, but the report is an open document that you can get. That was so that would be easy. I'm not going to say who said it, but it was said.
He was
You can't see me, obviously. I have a couple of questions. Is not the shooting of a weapon where the bullets go outside of the perimeter of the car? For example, an automobile that was hit live and shots start. And then there was a girl in the car. And I heard some people call that reckless endangerment. And so my point is, how come those particular issues are not related to not only the daily possible car, which I can define, but nobody is even recognized the fact that another vehicle was shot backwards and the female teenager was inside the car. And so,
If I may, so I can't talk about that, but what I will say that there was a criminal and internal investigation. That investigation was forwarded to the prosecuting attorney. They made that decision on the criminal, so I can't talk about that.
okay. The other question is,
But I'm very comfortable and confident in the criminal investigation that was conducted by Little Rock Police Department.
okay. The other question related to your status in here. Chief Governor, they had, according to the crime statistic, and the people I would ask, and also you share your crime analysis with Supervisor Gilbert to share some of the records on your accomplishments here. For example, government is resolving the homicide at 40% arrest record in crime. You bumped up to 89% assault and 72% arrest. That's accomplishment. And I insist some of you scholarly news here to look at some of the things that you have on record that you've done since you were here.
Well, thank you, sir. We got a lot more to do. I mean, right now we are, we have an overall decrease in crime, but we do have some concerns about violent crime. And I think that's happening throughout the nation, not just here. There's so much data out there to prove that. But we have a lot to do. And let me say this, sir, if I may. Man, we got an amazing department. This department is not broken, it's fragmented. It's got a few fragments. That's the parts that we have to fix, because those fragments ended up tearing into rips, big rips. And we've got to fix that. We have hard-working men and women on this department, black, white, Hispanic, short, tall, doesn't matter. We have them. So I want to make it very clear to the men and the women of the Little Rock Police Department, I love you guys. I love y'all. I'm not mad at anybody. I'm disappointed that as a police chief I have to take these actions. This is unheard of. But at the same time, these men and women need to know that their leader will stand up for what's right. That they have a leader that's not afraid to stand up for what's right. That they have a leader that is going to do the right thing for everybody. Because there's that young officer watching to see what's the chief going to do, what's he going to say? When is he going to tell us the truth? And so that's what this is for.
One other thing to add to your leadership, the Idle News, we received several calls from protesters who have participated in the protests, and they compliment you on you not being aggressive with them, and you work along with them on reached out to them and to see if there's anything that you can do to help reduce some of the tension. And also, they also compliment you on protesting along with them against injustice. And it seems that the same injustice that they are protesting on is what's being done to you.
Well, Brother Larry, what people don't see is that there are officers in our department, white officers, that stand right along with me and believe that there are injustices and they want to see it done right. 60-some% of our complaints inside the department come from internal sources. These officers are out here working hard. This has nothing to do with black and white. So I just want to make sure, I want to clarify that. I want to make sure that everybody understands that Chief Keith Humphrey is not saying that this is a black or white issue. Chief Keith Humphrey is saying that you have a component of an organization that has a history of bullying. And so then when you put executive staff with them, that's a lot of power to be bigger bullies. And so I just want to clarify that right now. I'm so proud of these men and women out here. This is not so everybody who belongs to the FOP is not a racist.
And one of the statements is
we move over, my friend, I'm sorry, we're going to come back.
This goes along with you saying this is not the black versus white problem. However, there was an earlier mention of the leadership staff at the FOP being white male dominant. I could be mistaken, but aren't there men of color on the board of the Little Rock FOP?
I have no idea.
No, the answer to
I have no idea.
I would just say if you can identify that officer, I'd be happy to.
I would be mistaken, that's what I said.
There are, so my understanding of the current executive board is Ronnie Morgan, Eric Temple, Kevin Simpson, Kenneth Hamby, Stephen Dodge, Michael McVeigh, Chris Ringgold, Kyle Henson, Travis Cumming, Mark Eisen. I'm personally familiar with several of them. To my understanding, those are all white men. And you know, the chief is right. It's really not about race. In fact, there's an equal protection claim in this case that, frankly, I think is more applicable, not in the race category of equal protection, but what they call a class of one, where your treatment is so arbitrary, so unexplainable, that you're not treated similarly you're not treated like similarly situated individuals. And I talk in this respect about Stuart Thomas. But look, it's almost like color and race is incidental to power structures, okay? You know, the group is white male dominant. It's not to say that in their DNA is this type of behavior. That's just who the group is. And the group wants power, and the group wants to sustain its power. It's understandable, but it's also unfair. So I echo what Keith said about the officers in this force, about the overwhelming goodwill that they have for them by and large, and about how, again, oversized this power structure is within this kind of nucleus within this group. So anyway, yes, sir, right here.
So a majority of your demands put out a letter several weeks ago saying that they could communicate with you more, the number of lawsuits filed against you, and all this too. How will the department continue to function amid all of this?
Like it has been. We got an overall decrease in crime. We got new programs started. I think the fact that the officers and the supervisors are waiting to hear from me and hear my side, because they've only heard one side. It's been very limited because when you have, internally, when you have a group that's all they do is they talk and they meet, these individuals have met secretly at police facilities to conspire this. And so I do know that there have been some of those individuals that have signed that form last week that have come and apologized. So there's no working problem.
And I can tell you that he does not want to be here doing this. I will tell him, you know, what's your alternative? Death by 1,000 cuts. Soon, nobody's going to be around for him to lead. So this was an unnecessary, unfortunate situation. But, I mean, he's got assistant chiefs on his hands. He's got a basic mutiny on his hands. He's got a judge. God bless the judge. But he's got a judge who is now enjoining him, at least temporarily, from getting to the bottom of the very situation that's being tossed around in the media, you know, the way it is. And it is a compelling case. It is a sexy case. I get it. But, you know, this guy's got to stand up now. It's time. And I'm so glad that we're doing this. I'm so glad that he's able to talk to the open record.
But I'm a strong leader. So that's how we'll lead. That's how we'll get through. I believe my officers wanted to hear from me. And they haven't been able to hear for the last 6 or 7 months because I'm going to go up here. I'm not going to go here. I'm going to go here.
All right, so I've been in those meetings. I've been to the chief numerous times, talking on a regular basis about what's going on with crime in the heart of the city. We've discussed with some of those officers that were listed that had majority of the issue about the relocation program. How close are we to having that in effect to alleviate a lot of this? Because we have a lot of outside noise and chaos that's brought into the city with people who don't know the community, haven't been in the community, and should know this community that they don't live in. How close are we to getting some type of answer and some type of resolution to get those who don't live here? You got to go. We can clear up some of these things. Because right now, we are on a great of return. We want to keep it that way. But we've always been remembering like it's not good for the city, the people, and it doesn't give us a trust in you. We trust you, but we need to make sure that the people are going to take care of our people that live here.
Please don't take it that the individuals or the officers who don't live here, please don't take them, put them in the same boat with these guys or these officers, because we have some very committed officers that they have a right to live where they want, and they come here and they serve, and that's their right, and I respect that. I think it's very difficult to sell someone that you have to live here in the city and you can't live somewhere else because it might be for family purposes and things like that. All I ask is for people to be quality. That's all I ask. Absolutely. 95% of our department is committed to community policing, no matter what the community looks like, no matter what those officers look like. I'm going to say this very clearly, 95% of the Little Rock Police Department is committed to community-oriented policing, 21st century policing, changes, growth, mentoring, empowering. And slowly but surely, it happens every day. It happens. That's coming. We've already
The
deployed
first thing
someone.
he's going to start doing is getting everybody to row the same direction.
So then why do you think this 5% is, in your words, conspiring against you? Why do you think it's doing it?
I think because they've had so much control of this department for so long, I think that people are actually intimidated by the FOP because the FOP has a lot of power. The national FOP, they are very vocal. If you listen to some of the things that have been said throughout the nation when it involves shootings, they defend the members no matter what. So I think that when you come in and you stand up, and I've even seen it in the meetings where they will try to switch your words. If you don't agree, the next thing you've got is a grievance. They will spin the message. And so it's at the point now where I won't meet with the FOP alone. I want to record the meetings that I have with the FOP because they will spin it. And so I think that they get their message out there. You know, they've got the platforms, they get their message out there. So I think people are intimidated by these guys. What if you're somebody that you let someone know that you're supportive of the chief, and this person, this member of the FOP board is on maternity leave, and basically says, hey, I'm on maternity leave, let me call you, and what are you doing? And basically say, why are you with this man? You know what our stance is against is. I mean, what kind of stuff is that? I mean, that's factual. That's not a guess. That's factual. And so those are the type of things. I mean, to call someone and tell them they're a snitch. I mean, these are the type of things that 5%. I'm telling you, the majority of these officers aren't committed to the FOP. They're committed to the fact of the bargaining and the legal. But you have that 5% that are just downright FOP members that they don't care what they do is going to cause. And that's the problem that we're having in the department. And that's the problem that Keith L. Humphrey is going to change.
What do you think the FOP's problem is? What do you think their problem is?
The body entire,
Are you talking?
The leadership,
The executive board?
The board, the ones making this lawsuit, what's their problem?
Well, the first thing is if you're set in your ways and you've always been allowed to do something and you feel that you've got Big Brother to protect you, then you're going to do that. And that's the fact. This is not an incident that is just restricted to Little Rock. This is a problem throughout the nation. You see it where they take pride in running police chiefs out and running city officials off. So this is not just new to them, you know, to when someone comes and tells you that they don't like, when somebody comes and tells you, you got to watch this assistant chief, and the next thing you know, they're supporting it. What does that say about integrity? That's the concern. When you have leaders in that organization that have confirmed untruthfulness, I'm talking about top leaders in that organization that have confirmed untruthfulness. How can you? I mean, what type of credibility do you have? This is what we have leading the FOP.
I'm sorry, you got this kind of fairness.
Okay, Chief, I have several questions.
Well, just one.
I'm gonna ask it all in one. As regards to accountability, there is no doubt that there is an attack on you going on, and I even challenge you to start saying it is racially charged because it is racially charged, except for the exception of Officer Things, who is in collusion against you. How do you expect the community to be on board and see that you are holding officers accountable? I noticed just last week you have gained hate crimes against statues for police officers. I know Ms. Cooper, a local black artist, her work was destroyed several times. I saw no press release, no thing dare you? You shot him 5 times for a beard trimmer in Gilbert. Okay? So we're asking, how can we expect you to hold other officers accountable if we're not seeing that you're holding the current officers accountable? I have not seen as much accountability as I would like to see. I know she said something about body cameras, but every day, every week, I see new cameras going up in the cities to police the people, but no protections for the people. So how can you do that? And if you are planning on truly holding the officer accountable, what can the community do to support you, and how do you handle these falsified police reports and these real hate crimes that are going on? Because spray paint on statues is not a hate crime, especially about police. So can you correct that and verify why you call that a hate crime, as well as what you will do all police accountable in the city?
Well, I'm not going to get into that right now. I will talk to you away from this because this is totally different. But I think you know. I think you know that I do hold the officers accountable. I also ask the officers to hold themselves accountable, and so I think my track record proves that.
Chief, in regards to the lawsuits against you, some people are now named in this suit. They're making claims like abuse of power, retaliation. Are you saying that all of those are part of this conspiracy against you, or do you address those claims?
Short answer is yes. I don't know if you've read the complaints that were filed against Keith Humphrey, but and I don't mean to disparage the drafter of those complaints, but that's some pretty lightweight fare. I've seen 80s movies with the ubiquitous angry African American mustachioed sergeant, a la Foley, get back in here, I don't understand how that constitutes any type of retaliation or harassment. Those are paper-thin allegations that I don't think are going to survive a 12B6 motion. And if they do, I think their days are limited. I know, hopefully I sent around the 74-page addendum via email to you all. It will be file stamped later today, and I can send it again, but I know it's a thick, grueling read, but if you read through there, you really see the different tasks and roles played by each of these players, all of whom have this single goal in mind, and that is to diminish his standing, or better yet, to get him to leave altogether. So, the loyalties in this profession are significant, and they should be, because it's a dangerous profession, it's an important profession. But the notion of an officer who otherwise doesn't have an axe to grind, jumping on in order to help out a buddy who's got an axe to grind is absolutely consistent with what I know. This is a conspiracy, a real jigsaw puzzle fitting together type of a conspiracy. And it doesn't have to sound so mysterious. If my buddy's doing a bank heist and I show up that morning and I drop off the ski mask for him, I say good luck, and I walk away, I'm part of the conspiracy. I don't have to go to the bank. I'm helping out.
Do you have a replacement for the union that you'd like to negotiate with? Is there some sort of structure that you're ready to deal with and negotiate with?
No, I'm not going to.
Who's going to go on?
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about, I wouldn't talk about that right now. This wouldn't be I just want everybody in the department to do their job and to do what we're paid to do and be the shining star of this state. That's what I want. We talked about, I gave my word that we would be the safest city in the state and one of the safest cities in the nation. That's our goal. That should be our goal. I will tell you what my plan is starting tomorrow, is start going to briefings. These officers want to see my face. I'm very confident that these officers needed to hear this from me. They want to know what we do next. We move forward, and we reduce this violent crime. We do 21st century policing. We've got a lot of new initiatives coming for the community. And so those are the things that we do. We've got an upcoming budget process we've got to go through. This is not going to stop us from progressing. I I've got too much support in that department, so I don't want anybody to think that I don't. I'm not going to allow a few, like I said, 5% to stop me from doing what I do and stop me from being who I am. I think it says a lot when you have line officers that will not go through their chain of command because they fear retaliation, and they come directly to the chief because they trust me. I think that says a lot. And anything that they have brought to me, I've been able to sustain, or we've been able to open an investigation and determine if the facts are true or not. So I think that's the way to do things. I don't hide stuff. Never have hidden stuff. But we move on. We're gonna be a stronger department. We're not dysfunctional. People will say that we're not dysfunctional. I can't change that. If that's what people believe. But what I will say is, come to one of my meetings. Come to one of our ComStat meetings and see what we do to make the city safe.
Because there are multiple officers at the morale department that I all the time well, do you think that this lawsuit has the potential to get worse?
No,
Why?
because I don't think that's the truth. I don't think the morale is low. I think you talk to certain people, they'll say that, but if you talk to the right people that matter, I don't think that's the case.
I would also say that to the extent that morale is low, I would attribute some of that to the fact that the department's leader has been taking incoming for weeks and hasn't been able to say his own side of the story. And that's a disillusioning aspect of this. And it's no one's fault. But, they call that death by 1,000 cuts. And so I think with this, it's like the blue, the schoolyard, and eventually say enough is enough. And when you assert yourself like you're supposed to, hopefully that has kind of an effect that, tends to nullify the violence. Last thing I'll say about this is that this is not a vindictive man. If this lawsuit leads to a greater understanding, conversation, reconciliation, that's what we're looking for here. We're looking for cohesion. He just wants to move this department into the 21st century.
When are our meetings so that the public and the people can come together back to this portion of the board, these 5% that are making very possible working?
Now, I can't have everybody come to the meeting, but I don't have a problem with having one person come at a time, right now. But I don't have anything to hide. If we don't have anything that's confidential or, intel-wise, I don't have a problem with people coming to me. Just send me an email.
Chief, is there a plan, or do you have something for going forward that you want to do to kind of resolve the obvious discord at least within the department?
Say that again?
Do you have a plan going forward, or something that you want to do to kind of resolve the obvious discord within the department, especially with the leadership, or anything you want to do to try to rectify that?
Absolutely. Every day. I think the officers need to see me. I think they need to be able to ask me the difficult questions. There are going to be some that, no matter what, I think that they were provided enough information to make a accurate decision. I think now they get that opportunity. There are going to be some that they don't care what I say. They've already made up their mind. But we have enough people in the department that are going to be supportive. Their big thing is, let's get this done. This has been distracting. Chief, let's get this done. Let's move forward. Let's put this behind us. Let this legal thing work itself out. We've got a job to do. And they need to see that from me. And so I think it is important for me to go in front of them from this point on, because I knew they were going to ask questions that I was not going to be able to answer, that I was not going to put myself in a position to answer months ago. But now I think they will feel comfortable asking certain questions. But I'm the same chief that cried the first day. I'm the same chief that took the oath. I'm the same chief that has promoted numerous people in this department. I'm the same chief that has put programs in place. I'm the same chief that gets in that office every day, and sometimes I don't leave till 10 o'clock at night. I'm the same one that gives my officers high five. I give my officers a hug. I'm that same guy. I'm no different. It's just that the story has been rewritten by others, and I'm here to tell my own story.
Yes, sir. Chief, you mentioned the issue with the narcotics department. Could you look at, for example, right now, we just had a shooting at
our narcotics division, new philosophy, new focus. And so I think you're going to see more of that. And, I keep in contact with the directors, and so everything you say, we're on top of it.
Yes, sir.
What's the plan or timeline for filling the vacant assistant chief position? And have you considered altering the command structure at all, adding another assistant chief position?
Everything's always open. Everything's on the table, but there's no timeline in filling that position. All the captains will get an opportunity, or various captains will get an opportunity to rotate from that in an acting position, so that everyone will get an opportunity to compete fairly who wishes to compete.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Chief, before you came to the city of Little Rock, the Little Rock Police Department had been in a big mess. And the citizens in the city of Little Rock, we know this. The atmosphere that's around the police chief and the leadership, black leadership, has been attacked in many ways. From the mayor to the police chief to the board with black board members. And this is nothing new. So I want to say to you that you come to a city that's having a history of attacking black leadership in many ways. So you might say it's not a black and white thing, but those of us who live here and been here for years, it's nothing new for us. So unfortunately, we walked into a mess, and the city of Little Rock Police Department was in a mess.
Well, I can't say I disagree with you on a lot of stuff you said, but keep in mind, I think that what Keith here was saying was, we were just talking about the four corners of that complaint. Not at all trying to suggest,
Yes, sir.
but I hear you. Your point is a good one.
And you know who suffers in this bit? The officers, the citizens. That's who suffers. And that's the selfish part about this whole incident that's been going on since March. Nobody took into consideration the officers. Nobody took into consideration our citizens. And it was all about self-pride and humiliation of others instead of thinking about everybody as a whole. If we're going to be family, if we're going to be Little Rock strong, we all got to be on the same page. And unfortunately, that was not, I feel that was missed when these allegations started. And my goal is to bring that bring this department back together. It might take some time, but I will tell you this, I truly believe, I heard what the question Shelby asked, but I truly believe that there's more smiles today than there are frowns. And I guarantee you there are more people putting on their vest and their gun belts to come to work and say, finally we know the truth. So I believe that. Some people won't say it out loud, but that's okay. It shows in their work. And I'm a very optimistic person. This is not going to be popular for some people, but it's not about popularity. It's about Keith Humphrey being selected as the 38th chief of the city of Little Rock, and Chief Humphrey living up to the promises that I made the citizens during those presentations, and Chief Humphrey leading his department. Not one time since these things started have I stopped leading this organization. We've had too many programs, we've done reorganization charge, we've got so many new technologies and stuff, so the production is still there. And just think if we all get on the same page, what we can do. That 14% that we're talking about as far as crime, violent crime, my goal is to cut that down to 5 to 0. I believe it can be done. But this has been a distraction. And it's time to move on. It's time to move on. It's time to get moving. And we have enough officers in this department that care about every citizen, no matter what they look like. And I'm going to say that again. We have some amazing officers in this department, no matter what they look like. We have some amazing officers, strong officers, intelligent officers, analytical officers, caring officers that spend their own money on a daily basis doing things. We have those. This is unfair to them, whether they're black, whether they're white. This is not about race. This is not about them versus us. It's about us coming together. We're going to do this thing. I promise you all this. I promise you that we're going to get through this. We're going to be a stronger department. I'm going to be a stronger person. I'm going to be a better friend, better husband, better father. We're going to have better officers behind this, because the thing about it is you can't lie about who you really are. And the officers know there's problems inside this department. And if it takes me to do this, to start repairing this, then I'll do it. I will sacrifice myself. I want you all to know that. I will sacrifice myself to make sure this department is a shining star in the state. This is very, very disheartening. But I'm here for the long haul. I'm not going anywhere. Nobody's going to run me off. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here. This department will be the shining star of the state. And I've got great supervisors. I've got a strong assistant chief that has been supportive of me, that I believe me and him back can make this thing work. I have an opportunity to promote some other people. I've got strong captains, strong lieutenants. We've gone to a new, so this police department is on the right track. I'm not going to let anybody derail it. You all need to hear my story. I don't want any sympathy or anything like that, but I want you all to know I got this. I got this city. My wife gets mad at me about when I say this, but I'm going to put the safety of this city on my shoulders. I'm going to put the sanctity and the integrity of this department on my shoulders. I'm going to do that. And she gets mad at me when I make those kind of statements, but that's what I'm signed up for. That's the way I'm made. I'm made for this. And so this place will change. I can't help it. Some people want to leave. I can't help that. But I guarantee you there are more that want to stay than there are that want to leave. They just want to know their chief's got their back and their chief's a fighter. That's all they want to know. Thank you.